Krishna's inferior external material energy or Bahiranga Shakti. The superior spiritual energy administers the spiritual world, and the material energy administers the material world, which is hidden from Krishna's effulgence in the spiritual world. That's why we are separated from the spiritual world, and we are unable to recognize God. I mean, for most people who deny the existence of God, and conditioned souls in this material universe are regarded as the marginal energy of the Lord, known as Tathastha Shakti. So we are actually like caught in between the spiritual and material energy. So here we can see that we are part of the Mahatattva, where Mahavishnu resides in the Karna ocean, and water bubbles emanate from the pores of his body, and each of these bubbles actually represent innumerable material universes in the Mahatattva. So we as Jivas, we are caught in this material universe, and Jivas means Jiva here refers to living entities, again, not just human beings. So living entities are, by definition, living entities are supposed to be the controlled ones, those who are controlled by the Supreme Controller. However, we are caught in this material world because we are wannabe controllers. We have fallen into this material world because we had the desire to be Ishvara and Purusha, meaning we wanted to emulate Krishna by being controllers and enjoyers by ourselves. And therefore, Krishna created this material world for us to control and enjoy. As I said earlier, the conditioned souls are part of the Lord's marginal energy. And again, when we say living entities, it actually refers to all living entities, meaning all living entities in this material world are spirit souls. It's just that they take up different material bodies, and that's how we have the 84 lakh species of animals, plants, and even human beings. So in Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna always uses the word Bhutanam, like in 5.29, Krishna says, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suldam Sarva Bhutanam. Krishna says that he is the supreme well-wisher of all living entities. Suldam Sarva Bhutanam. And then in 13.28, Krishna also says, Savam Sarveshu Bhuteshu Tishtantam Parameshwaram. Here it means that in chapter 13, it will be talking about the Jivatma and Paramatma. Within each living entity, the individual spirit soul, we also have the Paramatma who is accompanying us within our hearts. So in 13.28, Krishna says, Samam Sarveshu Bhuteshu Tishtantam Parameshwaram. The same Paramatma accompanies all living entities within their hearts. So from Krishna's viewpoint, he does not discriminate between the spirit souls. It's just that we tend to look at the animals and plants differently because they have different material bodies according to their lower consciousness level. It's just that we have got this human form of life because due to our past karma, we have developed a more advanced consciousness compared to animals and plants. And also in chapter 18, verse 61, it's stated, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hrideshe Junatishtati, meaning Ishvara resides as Paramatma within the hearts of all living entities. So here, Ishvara has created the material world for living entities or conditioned souls to enjoy by exploiting the material nature. We are actually deluded by false impression. It's like this. When we were in the spiritual world, we actually desire to enjoy and be controllers of, on our own, just like Krishna. So Krishna created the material world and he sent us here so that we can control and enjoy the material nature. But in fact, if we look at the material world or Prakriti, the Prakriti is also part of Krishna's external energy. So it's not that we are superior to Prakriti and we can enjoy Prakriti. Even after being born in this material world, we are still subject to the external energy of Krishna, which is Prakriti. It is only by Krishna's mercy that we tend to have this impression that we are enjoying in this material world by being a controller and enjoyer. In chapter 3, verse 27, it is stated, Prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasya ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyati. In the material world, actually we are controlled by the three modes of material nature. The three modes of material nature are also part of Krishna's material energy, and they are acting on us like puppeteers. But we are under the false impression that we are controlling them. But in fact, they are controlling us. That is according to 3.27. And in 7.5, it stated, Jiva Bhutam Mahabhav Jayedam Daryate Jagat. This means that the material world is meant to be exploited by living entities. So Krishna gave us this material manifestation, which is part of his external energy for us, the conditioned living entities, to enjoy. But he also says that in 7.13, Mohitam na vijanati. When we are in this material world, we are deluded by the three modes of material nature and we refuse to even acknowledge the presence of God. That's what Krishna says, Mohitam na vijanati. It simply means that we are under illusion and therefore we fail to recognize Krishna. Again, as stated in 15.7, Krishna said that living entities in this material world are suffering. He also says in chapter 8, verse 15, that this material world is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Simply because as we can see, so the material world consists of the 14 planetary systems, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems, where the Swarga Lokas or heavenly planets are part of the upper planets, and we have the lower planets where hellish planets are there, and we are in the middle in Earth planet. But throughout these 14 planetary systems, all the planets are subject to repeated birth and death, including Satyaloka, which is Lord Brahma's abode. You. So in chapter 8, verse 16, it stated, A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. Throughout the 14 planetary systems, So in the material universe, all the 14 planetary systems, including the topmost planet, Brahmaloka, is also subject to repeated birth and death. So even Lord Brahma, who appears to be the topmost living entity, so even Lord Brahma, who appears to be the topmost living entity, is also he also cannot escape from birth and death. According to all these verses, it can be clearly said that though we were sent to this material world to be enjoyers and controllers, in fact, we are not enjoying and we are not controlling anything. It is the Lord's material energy which is actually controlling us, and we are under illusion that we are enjoying here. So that's why Krishna has said that this place is Dukkalayam Ashashvatam, simply because we are always, as long as we are trapped here, taking up different material bodies, we will always be subject to the repeated cycles of birth, death, old age, and disease. Now the next topic, Kala, means eternal time. This time is also a very important factor here, not just for the manifestation of the material universes, but also in our life. Actually, we ourselves, being spirit souls, we were never born and we are not going to die. Like Krishna says in chapter 2 that the soul is neither born nor does it die. However, whenever we get different material bodies, that point when we get a new material body, and that is called birth, and when we discard the current material body and take up another body, that is the transmigration of the soul, that is called death. But this type of birth and death are only meant for the material body, not for the soul. However, there are 84 lakh species of material bodies which have been created by the Lord, and He awards us different material bodies so that we can enjoy according to our desires. Now we have gained this material body, the body of a human being, because due to our previous karma. So it's very important that we use this human form of life to attain the ultimate goal, so that we can escape the repeated cycles of birth, death, and old age and disease. So in chapter 8, verse 5, Krishna says, Antakale chamameva spananutva kalevaram, which means that those who remember me at the time of death while quitting their body are sure to attain my nature or the supreme abode. So that's the whole point of developing Krishna consciousness. We can only remember Krishna at the time of death if we practice remembering him throughout our life, our lifetime. So the process like chanting Hare Krishna, as emphasized by Srila Prabhupada, is actually meant to develop the practice in such a way that we can remember Krishna always, regardless of what we are doing. And that is also emphasized by Krishna himself in verse 8.7, where he says, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmare Yudhyacha. Krishna tells Arjuna that you do your duty of fighting, but you remember me always. So the word Yudhyacha here refers to, not just refers to Arjuna fighting the war, but it is also meant for us because we also have to fight these these problems of material existence, the problems of birth, death, old age, and disease. But while fighting, we also have to remember Krishna always, so that we can also remember him at the time of death and attain our supreme destination. And then there's also explanation regarding the material universe, the time span for the manifestation of material universes is explained in verse 8.17 to 19. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam means the material universe, the time span for the material universe is measured according to the days of Brahma. 1000 yugas or Chatur yugas, meaning the cycles of yugas from Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. These 4 yugas, when they are repeated 1000 times, they make up 1 day of Brahma. So the material universe will remain until the death of Brahma. After 100 years, according to Brahma's calendar, even he has to die. But of course, we'll be dying and we'll be repeating our cycles many times throughout even the lifespan of one Brahma. But again, the important point here is that since even Brahma cannot escape that, so we are nothing. We are also subject to the same problems of repeated birth and death. It's just that we refuse to acknowledge the truth, and we are under illusion and thinking that we are actually enjoying in this material world. But even for atheists who deny the existence of God, Krishna has also mentioned something special for everyone in chapter 11, verse 32. In this verse, Krishna says, Kalo asmi lokashayakrit pravalto. Kalo asmi, time I am, and I am the great destroyer of all the world. So even those who deny, those so-called intellectuals who deny the existence of God, they cannot deny the existence of time. From the day we are born, we are aging each and every day. And so apart from birth and death, we also have to go through the problems of old age and disease. So no one can deny the existence of the eternal time, and therefore Krishna says that even time, he is also time personified because he destroys everything as the eternal time, Kala. And the next topic is regarding karma. So as we have seen so far, Ishvara created the material world for us jivas to enjoy, but we are actually under illusion thinking that we are enjoying in this material world, but that's not true. We are actually being exploited and controlled by the Lord's material energy. And then even this material manifestation is subject to time and our lifespan within different material bodies, like the 84 lakh species, are subject to time. But after every, as the soul transmigrates through different bodies, the cycle keeps repeating over time. And during our existence in different material bodies, we engage in different types of karma or actions. Now, the main reason why we are caught here in this material world is because we wanted to be enjoyers. So Krishna created 84 lakh species of material bodies in such a way that we can enjoy according to the consciousness related to those material bodies. But as we try to enjoy and perform karmas in each material body, we are actually preparing ourselves for the next body. So today we have got this human body because we did something which was favorable to get this human body. So even after getting human body, if we live and perform acts like animals. So in our next birth, we are sure to get the animal body. So here it's stated that unlike the first four elements, Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, Karma is not eternal, because during each lifespan, within every material body, we perform different types of karma, and based on that, we get different material bodies. And there's also this one whole chapter regarding Karma Yoga, and this is the most basic understanding regarding how we should perform karmas to attain the supreme destination. Normally, we are always bound to the fruits of action. Whenever we perform something, we expect favorable results, but that is not the proper way, because as long as we desire the results, we'll always be bound by the sinful reactions. For example, Arjuna was thinking that he is going to fight the war, and if he wins, he is going to enjoy the kingdom by killing all the opponents. And actually, he was only thinking about killing all the opponents, and he was not thinking about the other type of outcome. But still, here he was quite self-centric in his reasoning. So throughout the Gita, Lord Krishna says that Arjuna should not think about the results to be liberated from the sinful reactions. When Arjuna was thinking that he is going to kill his relatives, it was because he was obsessed with his actions. So Lord Krishna said that you fight as I tell you, and you don't worry about the results. And if we also maintain the same type of consciousness or attitude in our daily life, we can be liberated from the sinful reactions, which means that we will not be bound by the effects of our karma, and we will not have to have repeated births and deaths in different material bodies. So we just have to focus on Krishna all the time and perform our duties without being bound by the reactions of work. So that is the basic understanding of Karma Yoga. But as we saw in the yoga ladder, the topmost yoga system is Bhakti Yoga. So even those who start at Karma Yoga will also ultimately end up at Bhakti Yoga. So the ISKCON movement is all about attaining the topmost level without having to go through the lower levels. Because if we always practice Krishna consciousness, even in our daily life, we don't have to think about performing separate activities like spiritual activities. Whenever we focus on Krishna, and even if we do our karmic activities like going to work and earning our salary, even those type of work, we focus on Krishna and dedicate everything to him, like he himself says in 9.27, Yat karosi yat dasnasi yat yosi darasi yat tapasyasi kauntaya tat puruso madarpanam. Whatever you do it as an offering to me. So again, here Krishna emphasizes the fact that whatever we do, we should just focus on Krishna and do it as an offering to him without worrying about the results. Only that would ensure that we can be liberated from the reactions of work. And another aspect which is related to karma is also stated in 4.13. Here also Krishna himself says, Chaturvarnyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasa, meaning Krishna created the four varnas, the varna system, and the division of each varna is based on gunas and karmas. Again, here, this is a very important thing to be noted. Actually, there are further details regarding the varna system in chapter 18 also, from 18.40 to 44, regarding each of the varnas. But the main point here is that the Varna system is based on gunas and karmas. So this is actually completely opposed to what many so-called intellectuals say, that normally these intellectuals who proclaim to be atheists, they say that they don't believe in God and religion, because when they say they don't believe in religion, they're actually only talking about one specific religion, and we know which religion is that. And the only excuse they give is that Hinduism promotes caste system, which discriminates based on birth. First of all, in none of the authentic scriptures, the caste system is not mentioned in any of the authentic scriptures. These people are actually confused between caste and varna, because there is no English equivalent for the Sanskrit word varna. Varnas, there are only 4 types of varnas, but how many castes are there? The caste system was not created by Krishna, and he has nothing to do with that. Krishna says clearly that he only created 4 varnas, and that too he divided those varnas based on gunas and karmas. He did not say janma vibhagasaha. He did not say that the varna is based on birth. So, of course, even those intellectuals, they should start studying authentic scriptures to know the truth. But another problem with even our community is that a lot of people tend to study Gita only based on WhatsApp forwarded messages. So only if they start studying the authentic scriptures, they'll know the truth. And another aspect related to karma is also mentioned in chapter 18. This actually comes after the explanation regarding the varnas. Krishna says in 18.47, Shreyans Swadharmo Viguna, meaning each person should perform his own duty. This he is telling Arjuna, where when Arjuna said that he wanted to go to the forest and live as a sage, Krishna said that your varna is that of a Kshatriya. The qualities and the inherent qualities of Arjuna are that of a Kshatriya, and therefore it's best to perform those duties of a Kshatriya rather than living as a sage. And since Arjuna was also worried about the sinful reactions of his work, Krishna also says in 18.48, Sahajam karma kaunteya, sadosham abhinatyajet, sarva arambhaya doshina, dume nakrin ivavrata. Krishna says that all types of work will always come with some form of flaws. Just like there's no smoke without fire, and therefore it is always best to perform work rather than not working, because we can never avoid any flaws from our work. So we have covered the what aspects of Bhagavad Gita. So if we look at the question regarding who spoke the Bhagavad Gita, the first verse was spoken by Dhritarashtra. He asked a question to Sanjaya, and then Sanjaya actually got this divine vision from his spiritual master, Vyasadeva, and he's able to see what's happening at the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So he narrates what's happening to Dhritarashtra, and Arjuna begins to speak. He starts to complain to Krishna in the middle of chapter 1, and he continues complaining, and he says, I'm not going to fight, towards the end of chapter 1. And then Lord Krishna starts to speak in chapter 2. So out of the 700 verses in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna spoke 574 verses, Arjuna spoke 84, Sanjaya spoke 41 verses, and Dhritarashtra spoke only once. So when was the Bhagavad Gita was spoken? It was spoken more than 5,000 years ago, before the Mahabharata war started in Dwapara Yuga, when Arjuna was in despair. And the day on which the Bhagavad Gita was spoken, it actually fell on the Margasirsha Shukla Paksha Tithi, which we celebrate as Gita Jayanti. However, Krishna also says in chapter 4, first verse, Krishna says that though the Bhagavad Gita was spoken to Arjuna during Dwapara Yuga, Krishna says that the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita was spoken long ago by Krishna to Vivaswan, the sun god. And then Vivaswan imparted the knowledge to Manu, and Manu imparted the knowledge to Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku, who is the ancestor of Lord Ram in the Solar dynasty, Raghukulam. And then in the second verse of chapter 4 also, Krishna states the reason why he has to speak the Bhagavad Gita again. When Krishna first spoke to the sun god Vivaswan, and Vivaswan imparted knowledge to Manu and then to Ishwaku, the knowledge was received through a disciplic succession. However, in the course of time, the succession was broken and the knowledge was also lost. So Krishna says that he has to speak the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita again to Arjuna. But why did Krishna choose Arjuna to impart the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita? That is stated in the third verse of chapter 4. Krishna says, Bhakto Sime Saka Cheti. Krishna says that I'm imparting this knowledge to you because you are not just my friend, but you're also my devotee. In chapter 2, after complaining to Krishna that he is not going to fight, Arjuna at one point in the beginning of chapter 2, in 2.7, he surrenders to Krishna and he says, now I surrender to you as your disciple. You please instruct me what to do. So Arjuna surrenders to Krishna in that mood of a disciple and devotee. And therefore Krishna chooses to impart this knowledge to Arjuna. So this is what Arjuna said in 2.7. So it is also worth noting that throughout chapter 1, when Arjuna was complaining, Krishna chose to remain silent. He was patiently listening to all of Arjuna's complaints, and he only started to impart the actual knowledge of Bhagavad Gita starting from verse 2.11. So he waited for Arjuna to surrender as a disciple, and only then he begins to impart the knowledge. So meaning that even for us, we should, when people approach us for help, we should also patiently listen to what is their actual problem. We listen to them patiently, and only then we start to help. But nowadays, even everyone is facing problems. So in spirituality, it's best to focus on our own journey. And next, why we must read the Bhagavad Gita. So for this, I've just reproduced a portion of Srila Prabhupada's lecture. So I'll just read it word by word because there's no better explanation than this. In Prabhupada's lecture in LA on July 4th, 1971, this is what Prabhupada said. This morning, I was seeing one advertisement, telephone company. They are advertising, if you have any problem, do not hesitate to call us. I've underlined the word any. Therefore, I was advising our secretary that why don't you ask the telephone company, I've got this problem, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. I've got the problem of birth, death, old age and disease. Can you help me? The telephone company advertised that if you have any problem, do not hesitate to call us. So here, Srila Prabhupada is being sarcastic. He says that we have this problem of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. Can the telephone company help us? Then he continues, then they should be informed that if you have no information for solving this problem, then please send all men who are inquisitive about these 4 problems to us, to ISKCON. We shall solve it. That's a fact. It's not a humbug promise. It is a fact. This Krishna consciousness movement is meant for giving the human society a solution for these 4 problems. Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. It is not that we have manufactured this idea. It is the statement of Krishna. So there's no better explanation on why we must study the Bhagavad Gita. Simply because as long as we are trapped in this material world, we will always be subject to repeated cycles of birth, death, old age, and disease. Regardless of how we may try to hide the fact, but we are always subject to these problems. And a lot of people also say that this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is it's an ancient book. How is it relevant to today's problems? Though this knowledge is actually ancient, but the problems of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi are eternal. Since time immemorial, even in Satya Yuga, people were born and they died. The same happened in Treta Yuga, then Dwapara Yuga, and even in Kali Yuga. At least in those previous yugas, people lived for quite long, and today we cannot even think about living up to 100 years. So that's why it's important to study the Bhagavad Gita, and we have to start right away without waiting for retirement age, as what many people think. And here I've underlined the word we. Why we must read the Bhagavad Gita? It is simply because we all have gained this human form of life. In this verse, Ahara Nitya Bhaya Maikunam Cha Samanyam Etat Pashubir Naranam Dharmo Hi Tesham Adhika Vishesho Dharmena Hina Pashubi Samana. The only difference between human beings and animals is that only in the human form of life we can develop spiritual, we can have spiritual inquiry and develop God consciousness. Apart from that one aspect, there's no difference between human beings and animals. Apart from that, even animals engage in eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And if we don't have spiritual inquiry, and if we don't develop God consciousness, and if we don't inquire how to escape this cycle of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, then there's no difference between us and animals. So if we don't utilize this human form of life properly, then we are going to be degraded into the animal kingdom. Because if we choose to live as animals in this present form, then Krishna will be merciful enough to give us that form of life in our next birth. So that's why it's very important for us, since we have got this human form of life, we have to study the Bhagavad Gita and develop spiritual inquiry and God consciousness. And here, another reason why we must read the Bhagavad Gita is because the Bhagavad Gita is consists of spiritual knowledge spoken by Lord Krishna. Speculative knowledge manufactured by human beings are always prone to 4 types of defects. Because human beings are always prone to the defects of committing mistakes, becoming illusion, having imperfect senses, and also the propensity to cheat others. So if we try to rely on knowledge created by human beings, then it will be the case of the blind leading the blind. So it is best to look up to our supreme spiritual master, Lord Krishna, and we should study the Bhagavad Gita to actually understand what he is trying to tell us to escape the problems of Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. And here we shall look at several important verses which are like the main highlights or milestones in throughout the discourse of Gita. The first verse, 1.1, was spoken by Dhritarashtra. Though the Bhagavad Gita is known as the Song of Bhagavan, the first verse was spoken by Dhritarashtra, who is the main villain in Mahabharata. So Dhritarashtra asked Sanjaya, after his sons, the Kauravas and Pandavas assembled in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, what did they do? The verse starts like Dharma Kshetre Kurukshetre Samaveda Yutsava. So the interesting fact here is that despite being a demoniac or the villain of in Mahabharata, Dhritarashtra himself utters the word Dharma. He himself says that Kurukshetra is a Dharma Kshetra. So here he actually begins with a question because he is in anxiety. He wants to know who is going to win the war. But even his the answer to his question is there in his question itself. He himself admits that Kurukshetra is Dharma Kshetra, the place for Dharma. So there's no way for Adharma to win over Dharma on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is Dharma Kshetra. So he wanted to know who is going to win the war, but the answer was already there in his question. So in the first verse, Dhritarashtra asked his assistant Sanjaya regarding who's going to win the war, and then Sanjaya gives a conclusive answer in the last verse. Wherever there is Krishna, the master of all mystics, and wherever there is Arjuna, the supreme archer, there will also certainly be opulence, victory, extraordinary power, and morality. That's my opinion. This was spoken by Sanjaya. He gives a conclusive answer to the question of Dhritarashtra, meaning he simply tells Dhritarashtra that the Kauravas have no chance of winning against the Pandavas because Lord Krishna was on the side of Pandavas. And another important turning point in Bhagavad Gita was in verse 2.7, where Arjuna actually surrenders to Krishna. He surrenders as a disciple and he accepts Krishna as a spiritual master to get instructions from Krishna on what he should do. After hearing the Bhagavad Gita, in verse 18.73, Arjuna says, all my illusions and doubts are gone, and I am prepared to act according to your instructions. Karishye vachanam tava. So Arjuna was in a very helpless condition in chapter 2, and after listening to Lord Krishna's instructions, and Arjuna also posed many questions to Lord Krishna in between, and Lord Krishna was also patient enough as the true spiritual master. He was patient enough to explain Arjuna regarding all his doubts. And then even before Arjuna spoke in 18.73, in 18.72, Krishna asked Arjuna, O son of Pritha, O conqueror of wealth, have you heard this with an attentive mind? And are your ignorance and illusions now dispelled? Krishna spoke to Arjuna the entire knowledge of Bhagavad Gita for 17 chapters. And even towards the end, he is asking Arjuna, are you fully clear about what I've spoken to you as the supreme spiritual master? And after Arjuna says Karishye vachanam tava in 18.73, Sanjaya begins to speak again to Dhritarashtra, starting from 18.74 to 18.78. In 18.75, Sanjaya says, by the mercy of Vyasa, I've heard these most confidential talks directly from the master of all mysticism, Krishna, who was speaking personally to Arjuna. So here Sanjaya acknowledges the mercy of his spiritual master, who was Vyasadeva, who gave him the divine vision to witness what was happening at the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Because of that divine vision, he could witness the discourse which was going on between Krishna and Arjuna. And in verse 4.34, Krishna himself emphasizes the importance of approaching a spiritual master. The knowledge of Bhagavad Gita it deals with spiritual knowledge, which actually tells us how to get out of this material world. All the knowledge, the so-called academic knowledge that we receive from academic institutions, those type of knowledges, they are meant to make us karmis who will only focus on eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But the Bhagavad Gita is spiritual knowledge, and therefore it is best to approach a spiritual master to study the Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada always used to distinguish between the difference between reading and studying. So it is very important to study the Bhagavad Gita under the guidance of a spiritual master. So when we choose a spiritual master, it's also important to ensure that the spiritual master comes from a bona fide parampara. Lord Krishna being the supreme spiritual master, he created 4 paramparas, the Brahma Sampradaya, Sri Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, and Kumara Sampradaya. the ISKCON movement is actually part of the Brahma Sampradaya, which through which the disciplic succession came down to Madhvacharya, and the ISKCON Parampara is actually described as Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, meaning even after Madhvacharya, the Parampara branched out into different locations throughout India, and particularly this Gaudiya Sampradaya was focused around Bengal, where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born, and therefore the actual line of disciplic succession for the ISKCON movement is called Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. And thanks to the founder of ISKCON, Srila Prabhupada, we have got this greatest gift called Bhagavad Gita as it is. We know that there are many versions of Gita in the market, but even when some journalists in the US asked, we already have so many books on Bhagavad Gita, why do we need another one? So Srila Prabhupada answered, he said that my Bhagavad Gita is Bhagavad Gita as it is. So true to his word, he has explained each and every verse according to a specific format. First, he gives the original verse in Devanagari. Then he has given the Romanized Devanagari version so that we can, even those who cannot read Devanagari can read the Romanized version. And he also gives word by word meaning, followed by the full translation. And the biggest highlight of Bhagavad Gita as it is, and also all of Prabhupada's books, is the Bhakti Vedanta purports. The purports were not actually written by Prabhupada, but they are the product of the entire Parampara system. So I'm not actually belittling the other Gitas which are there on the market, but the Bhagavad Gita as it is contains the Bhakti Vedanta purports based on authentic references to many other scriptures, and it is not based on subjective interpretations, which may corrupt the actual meaning of the Gita. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Very good. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Mute panninga. Mute ready. So how do you find the presentation today?
Fantastic, Prabhu.
Fantastic, huh? It's moving. Right? So congratulations, Dr. Dinesh, on your first attempt to do this session. Right? It shows that you are really mastered the Gita fantastically well. Right? So I'm so proud of you. No word to describe. What do you think, dear devotees? Right?
Yes,
I think in 1 hour 15 minutes you have described, you have explained the entire secret of Bhagavad Gita, right? What do you think? All of you, right? Fantastic presentation. So like this, so that's another example of for us to create this Namahatta program, because we want to create this kind of more talents. Okay, and like this, we're going to do more program. I think, do you want to listen to this class again? So I'm thinking of asking Dr. Dinesh to do this introduction again. All right. So I think because I think this one we can go on listening at least 100 times. Okay, that's how we can really master the Bhagavad Gita, right? Okay. So so that's all. Do you have any questions for Dr. Dinesh? He's just hot from the oven, just completed his Bhakti Sastri. And I'm so happy for him. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Any questions for him? Finish. Off the camera. All right. Okay. So if there's no question, thank you so much. If all of you are here, we have very nice prasadam. But anyway, all right. So we meet again tomorrow, Monday. There'll be a Gita class, a regular class, Gita class by His Grace Madhura Mohan Prabhu. All right. Don't miss it. Later, I will share the recording with all of you. And please encourage many to join our program. Till then, take care. Good night. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.